What's up, guys? Max here, back with a brand new episode of the Scuttlebutt Show, and I've got a really great guest and a special episode for you guys today. Please welcome our esteemed guest here, Brian Shipman. You heard that right. That is last name Shipman, and he's a Navy veteran. Brian, how are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. So people might not know why you're here, so let me start with that. You are involved with the Old Salt Coffee Company, who, if there are longtime listeners of the channel here or people who haven't seen this yet, I found you guys because a country song came out called Stand the Watch, and it was sponsored or produced by Old Salt Coffee. What is that? What is that whole Stand the Watch? How did that come about? Why do we all know that now? And that's how we found Old Salt Coffee.
Well, obviously the term first. Thanks for asking me to be here. Thanks for giving us some airtime here to talk about the company and just share a few stories. Obviously, Navy term, standing the watch, meaning standing the watch on the ship. Lookout, officer of the deck, engineering officer of the watch, somewhere. The watch is always being stood somewhere in the Navy, and it's when people retire, there is a lot of times they will have there's a specific verbiage of for 20 years this sailor stood the watch, and it's a very formal ceremony, very moving when they do it. So one of our owners in the company is part of a video crew, and they have some connections to different entertainers and yeah, they work a lot in sports videos and some entertainment things. And they got word of this young man, Brandon Davis, who was kind of an budding internet country star. And they kind of got to talking back and forth and figured out that, maybe he'd like to pitch a little for the coffee company, and we'd support him too. He does some really good work he does some really great work on some charity things for veterans. So Brandon's a great guy. He wrote the song "Stand the Watch," and it is a tribute to Navy veterans who have stood the watch. Well, active duty or retired or just simply veterans. Anyone who has stood the watch in the Navy, that is who the song is supposed to speak to. And got it worked out last November. They flew the crew out, and Brandon came out to Hawaii, and they filmed a bunch of the video out on the old battleship Missouri Memorial. And some of the scenes, there's actually a couple of our owners show up in the scenes where they're in the bar, and he's singing in there. That was very interesting working with him. And I think it turned out really well. Seems to be a pretty good song. Hopefully we get some traction, and hopefully we both do well on that, both Brandon and Old Salt Coffee.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. I listened to it and I was like dancing around like a fool. And at first I was like, I don't know what this is going to be. But as the song went on, I'm like, you know what? It's a great song. I love it. This is the Navy's new country anthem. And you stood the watch, right? You did a number of years in the Navy. How long were you in the Navy?
30 years and 10 days.
30 years and 10 days. You commanded ships, is that right?
I commanded USS Decatur, DDG 73, and then later on I had command of a destroyer squadron that when I got there, it had 5 ships in it. When I left, it had 8.
That is incredible.
In fact, trivia, today, my time is June 1st. This is the three-year anniversary of my official retirement.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. That's very cool. Thank you for your service.
It was a great ride. Thank you.
Yeah, I bet. The Navy. Why? How did you end up in the Navy? What's the backstory there? What brought you to serving in the Navy?
It's not just because of my name, because my dad is Shipman and he served in the Army, so that wasn't it. But, and as a young kid, grade school, I kind of fell in love with World War II and the Pacific Navy history. I mean, my heroes growing up were Halsey, Spruance, and Nimitz, and I enjoyed. I was always fascinated by what I read in the world Navy in World War II, and then I kind of decided at an early age I wanted to be in the Navy. And at the time, all through high school, I thought I was going to enlist and be a gas turbine mechanic. So I loved playing around with cars, as I wanted to be a mechanic, and I thought, hey, I'll go be a gas turbine mechanic. This should be fun. My dad wanted me to go to college. and he convinced me to apply for a Navy ROTC scholarship. And things worked out. I wound up going to University of Illinois. Thank you very much, Dad. Crammed 4 years into five. Took me a little bit to get through college, but 5 years of being midshipman shipman. That was I've still got the scars from that. But no, wound up. That was thanks, Dad. That was the right call. And so I got commissioned in May of '89, and I didn't think when I was commissioned, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to do 30 years and it's all going to be great. It just one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was 15 and then 20 years, and I stayed with it till I had to go.
That's great. I loved the Navy myself. When you got in, when you finally became Ensign Shipman, how did that work for your whole career with that name? Did that was that always a pretty notable thing as you go around and meet new people?
Um, Especially, I mean, especially the officers, some would really key in on that. They're like, dude, you must have had a rough time in college. But yeah, for the most time, when somebody would see the name tag and they'd see that name, they're like, yeah, that's a real Navy name, or they'd have a comment on it. But it's good way to get a conversation started. Good way to meet people like that, and tell them about the Navy or tell them about what I was doing. So after college, it wasn't so much of a burden.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very memorable too. So if I met you in the Navy, I'd be like, you would never believe who I met yesterday, Lieutenant Shipman. It's just something that you can't forget. When you were coming up in the Navy, making your way through ranks and commands, any notable moments, deployments, things that stand out to you that you think back as highlights in your career?
This is the reason you join the Navy is not. I mean, you were in the Navy. You know this. You don't join for the GI Bill. You don't join for the pay. You join for the stories, because you
Yeah.
get stories. We could go on for way too many hours, bore you with stories for days. But yeah, there were some moments that stuck with me. I mean, I was 24 years old when I qualified to be officer of the deck on my first ship, which was an aircraft carrier. And couple of years out of college, 24 years old, I'm driving an aircraft carrier. The captain's going to sleep at night saying, it's all yours, Brian. Don't hit anything. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, for a young guy straight out of college. But the people stick with me more than anything. Thankfully, on Facebook, so many of the great sailors that I've served with, I've been able to stay in touch with, and some of them just stick with you. Guys, from my first ship. My first boss was a prior enlisted lieutenant on board the carrier, and he passed away about 10 years ago, and his family had me do his eulogy. Things like that stick with you. I mean, he had an impact on my career when I took command of the ship almost 20 years later. There he was. I had a front row seat ready for him right there at the ceremony. I mean, Bill Marshall was one of a kind, and I've got a long Rolodex list of people like that from the different ships and shore stations that have stuck with me, that you don't forget them.
Yeah. It says a lot. It says a lot to ask you, somebody who's done 30 years in the Navy, about that, and you say the people, right? Because that's really what it all comes down to. And we know that in the Navy, they say mission first, sailor always, and that's how you look at it from a leadership perspective. But as you go through, you make these just connections with other human beings that are, I mean, it's greater than some of the connections you have with your own family when you do things on deployment, when you do things, having these experiences around the world that bond you together for lifetimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I work with just some of the best men and women in the. You're supposed to say that, play a recorded message. Sailors are the best men and women in the country. They are. They really are. Just last week, there's a ship in San Diego that had a change of command. The outgoing commanding officer was my material officer. She was my N4 at the destroyer squadron. The incoming was a guy that worked for me at a training command. He was one of my lead trainers at a shore training command. Both of them stuck with me, and they invited me. Unfortunately, time distance didn't work. I couldn't go down there and be at the ceremony, but love seeing how they've how many of them have gone on to either command or making chief or making master chief, getting picked up for a commissioning program. A lot of good sailors doing great things out there that I had the honor to observe them work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it probably says something too. If you were somebody's boss at one point and then they invite you out somewhere, that says a lot about you. It's people don't invite all their old bosses out. Sometimes you don't have the fondest memories of a boss.
No, I'm sure I've got a couple out there that have voodoo dolls of me. I'm fairly certain of that,
Yeah.
but that's few and far between. I was fortunate and I had a great supporting cast. It wasn't me that made it 30 years in the Navy. It was the supporting cast that carried me along that far.
Yeah, that's right. Man, you just gave me goosebumps too, because that's really true. It takes the team. A leader is only a good leader because they build a good team.
Now the one that we haven't even talked about coffee yet, but obviously my best tour was Command of the Destroyer, greatest 20 months of my life. Um, as one of my mentors years ago told me, prior, he's a retired captain, old salty guy. He's like, if you've had a good command tour, your ship should produce 3 to 4 commanding officers out of your wardroom. I mean, the wardroom on the destroyer was about 30 people, give or take. So if you're a good ship, because rising tide lifts all boats, people know you come out of a good ship, you get 3 or 4 commanding officers. If you've had a really good ship, you might get 6 or 8. So far, I've had 15 go on to command from Decatur,
Wow.
and I've still got
Wow.
a couple that have a shot at it.
Wow.
So
I,
the talent that was around me when I was on there was just, yeah. And how hard was it to be the captain when you had that kind of cast of characters behind you? It was really amazing. That was just an incredible tour.
from a leadership perspective, it's and I struggle with it. I have to be very cognizant of it when I'm working. If I'm leading a team on a film project, let's say, which is something I do pretty frequently now, it is easy to forget that other people have good ideas and other people are motivated and other people are capable of doing things right. And when you're the person signing on the dotted line at the end of the day, taking responsibility for everything as the commanding officer, even things that you have nothing to do with. When I was on the Reagan, we had a sailor was killed in a 3M accident, and they relieved the XO. CO took a hit on that, and but it was a thing that the entire evolution that happened took place over the course of 30 seconds, but training and following procedures and readiness all comes back on the command. For you to recognize that talent in your wardroom, and then I'm sure you had to have a positive impact on them and enable them to grow as officers too, because then you're talking about, for everyone listening, not only that 15 people went on to command, that means that many people continue to serve in the Navy. That's retention, that is qualifications, that's being eligible for promotion, because it means they didn't get looked over and forced out. So you must have played a huge role in all of that. So congratulations on that number. That's pretty incredible.
I try not to break my arm patting myself on the back. It wasn't all my doing, but I'm very proud of them. It's been great to see the successes of a lot of them.
Yeah. I don't think I've talked to many people on this show who've commanded ships. What was that like, to realize that a whole ship in the Navy or a whole fleet of ships was kind of your responsibility? What was the weight of that like?
The I'd had time to. I was ashore for 3 years, 3.5 years before I took command of the ship, in between my executive officer and commanding officer tours. So I had a lot of time to kind of think about it. Talked to a lot of people who had been in command to kind of get prepped for it. Um, yeah, quite a few butterflies that first time getting it underway. I'd been in and out of San Diego Harbor 100 times, but I'd never as the captain. And it's different. But it's not like just surprise one day you're in command. I mean, a lot of your experiences build up to it, And I had a lot of really good examples to follow as commanding officers, and kind of picked out their do's and don'ts. You're prepared for it when you get there. Yes, there's still pressure. There's some. I tried to say that I never had a bad day in command. I had some long days, but never a bad day. And I tried to wake up every morning, and have a good day. So these corny things you get, little leadership tidbits. Before I went to my executive officer tour, when we were in training up in Newport, Rhode Island, one of the instructors walked in there. It was a 2-week course for executive officer leadership, and this captain walks in there in a great big booming voice. There were ship drivers, submariners, aviators, medical, all kinds of different officers all going to their executive officer tour. His big voice, he says, "Congratulations on screening for executive officer in your chosen profession. That's a high watermark, in your career so far, and you must be one of our best if you've been picked." He's like, by accepting these orders, you have now given up your right to have a bad day, because when the XO has a bad day, the whole ship has a bad day. And I thought about that, and I'm like, he's right. When the XO gets out there at quarters in the morning, and you can tell he or she is unhappy about something, the whole ship reflects it. I tried to keep that. I tried never to have a bad day just because of that. Even if I was having a bad day, I wouldn't tell anyone, because that really, you've got it's a lot of influence over people.
We,
so it's got to be positive.
I agree with that sentiment. We had the XO I was just referring to with that 3M incident. His name was Captain Brugal, and he was my XO on the Reagan. He actually was heir to a big rum company out of South America. Instead, he became a pilot in the Navy, served for his whole career, and he ended up, unfortunately at the Reagan, get his final command. He got relieved because of that 3M incident. But we went to Santa Barbara on a port call because I was on the Reagan, and the Ronald Reagan Library was in Santa Barbara. And he rolled through in Santa Barbara and just started buying tabs at bars and restaurants. He showed up with his wife, driving his convertible down the street, and he was he boosted morale. And when you're on the ship, and the XO's in charge of cleanliness as well, and kind of overall condition of the ship, and we would have cleaning stations. We called it Spirit of 76 in the morning, and the XO would walk through and just positive attitude and actually make people feel like okay about spending an hour cleaning a P-way, and that's tough for your 100th day in a row of cleaning a P-way, the same P-way, to get up there and feel like, you can laugh and joke and actually do it, and feel like it's serving a purpose.
That can be tough. Those long days underway in the routine, and like you said, you swept the same passageway every day for the last 3 months. Sometimes that can be tough to look the young sailor in the eye and say, "Hey, you missed a spot over here." You got to acknowledge it when they've done it right, and that's the good part of the job. I miss that stuff.
Yeah, I miss that stuff too, actually.
I don't miss endless meetings. I can do without those, but.
Well, now, by the way, if you guys think out there being a commanding officer or being a leader in charge of anybody is easy, you should try it sometime. Like you said, I love that you said when you're you've done it 100 times. When you're the commander, it's different. It just is. When you're the bottom line on anything, as a junior sailor, you might be a plane captain or just carrying crypto around, or any job that you're doing. The first time that you're the bottom line on it, the last person to sign off on it, and you're putting your honor, courage, commitment on the line, your reputation and your subject matter expertise, it's different. It's different every time that you're doing it, and you're the bottom line. For every time you do it, something new in that situation, it always feels different. It's something you never really quite get used to. You feel that weight of the responsibility.
And you need to build up the right. My opinion, worth exactly what you're paying for it. Nobody's going to come up and tell the captain bad news. Nobody wants to tell the captain bad news. And if you shoot the messenger, you're never going to hear bad news, which goes really badly. Finding those certain people and places around the ship where you can really kind of get the feel of what's going on. Tough to quantify, tough to put into words, but there's certain people on the ship, they know everything that's going on. That may not be an officer, it may not even be a chief, it may be somebody very junior, it might be the barber. Barber shop is where you can learn a lot about the ship. Because everybody talks to the barber. You could go in there and find out what people are really upset about, or I learned more about that more. That was more during my XO tour. I loved going there and getting my hair cut because I could. Barber was that guy that was plugged into the feel of the ship, and you could get a lot of good nuggets of knowledge out of him of what people were really concerned about, what they were happy about, what they weren't. Kind of gave you some good ideas on where to go put your resources to work to make things better for the ship, to make it better for the crew.
Yeah, I love that. So with all this Navy talk and commanding a ship and all the roles that you've played, and you're sipping it out of your mug right now, there's nothing that beats some good old Navy mud, some coffee, some Joe. So you are now part of the Old Salt Coffee Company. What is that?
Okay, a good friend of mine started Old Salt Coffee, but it was about 2 years ago. He gets a hold of me. In fact, that deployment I made when I was CO of Decatur, he was CO of one of the other ships in the squadron, and we were with Reagan. You just left. Apparently, you heard that we were showing up there, so you.
That's
ran
right. I heard Shipman's coming.
He had seen on my Facebook page where every now and then, around this time of year, Battle of Midway, I'd make some posts, history, Battle of Midway. He's like, "Hey, I love your posts on it. What do you think about writing a few posts for this coffee company I'm starting?" And I'm like, he told me about it being an online kind of a deal. I'm like, "Hey, I'll write a couple of stories." Yeah, I write the stories on the bag. I figured I'd write a couple of stories, get some free coffee, maybe some free swag. That'd be it. Next thing I know, he's cutting me in as a part owner. So it's been interesting. I'm still learning how to be a civilian. It's different. Hopefully, I'm getting better at it. I learning a little bit more about business every day. But the coffee company has been good. I write the history posts. They're not quite daily, but several times a week there'll be a history post on our Facebook page. And one of the things we've enjoyed seeing, because the theme of our company is bringing sailors together to tell their stories over a cup of Old Salt coffee. It's been interesting to see how people have told some of their stories on our page. Now, actually, on the website, there's an entire section for sea stories. And there's some funny stuff on there. There's some really good sea stories that people have submitted. But early on, because our company formed officially, we went live in October of 2020 during the height of the pandemic.
Yeah,
God love it.
Yeah.
I think it was December. There was a post about one of the battleships being recommissioned in the 80s, when under the Reagan administration, we brought the battleships back. A couple of guys got to talking on there back and forth in the comments, and it turned out one of them had been the refuel guy on the helo that had landed on that battleship. And to watch them go back and forth and reconnect after 40 years, I mean, that's kind of neat to watch. That's neat to see.
Over coffee.
Yeah, over coffee.
I love that.
Tell the sea stories over coffee. I mean, you stood some mid-watches. How many times did your chief walk in there with a big cup of coffee? And back in my day.
Yeah. Well, back in my day, I joined the Navy when I was 18. I didn't have a big taste for coffee at the time. We were still drinking soda. That was like our sports drink. Like, oh yeah, you're playing basketball, you need a Sprite. You're doing you're out there doing some work, you need a Coca-Cola. That's 25 milligrams of caffeine. It's totally healthy. It'll keep you up. Like we just didn't know anything. We didn't know anything back then. And I didn't understand caffeine or anything. And when I got onto the Reagan, 19 years old by the time, and it was energy drinks were starting to become a thing. And then I drank energy drinks pretty hard for a little while. We sold no-dos in the ship store for the really long nights. I went through a period of about 30 days where I don't think I got in my rack more than once. I was working on my enlisted surface warfare, and I was PCSing, and I had a limited amount of time, so I pretty much, it's a long story, but I dug in pretty hard and ended up getting that done thanks to no-dos and Monster Energy. Again, jam-packed with sugar, totally bad for me. On my next deployment with a helicopter squadron on a USNS ship, we didn't have really any ship store, but we did have a mess deck that was open, a coffee mess, peanut butter and jelly and coffee 24/7. And that deployment is when I learned to love coffee. We were the only military on that ship. There was 12 of us enlisted, and we had an air crew. And we would work whatever the flight schedule demanded. So sometimes we would get, SAR missions that we were on call for, or long unreps, underway replenishments. And so we would have some long hours, and I would go down and just sit there with my full flight deck gear and a tiny little paper cup and drink 5 or 6 cups of coffee out of this one metal jug. And that is the deployment that I learned. It started with a lot of creamer, and by the end, just black, tar.
The my first ship was Nimitz out of Bremerton, Washington, and that was from 90 to 93. And this small startup company up there was just trying to, starting to really get traction and starting to get big, was this company called Starbucks.
Ah,
And
wow.
there was a couple of gourmet coffee companies up there, and I'm just a kid from a farm in farming country in Illinois. Folgers, I'm all good. And some of the guys, they get out in town, they'd find these things. And it was just one of those things that stick with you. Middle of the night, you got the midnight to the midnight to 3 watch or whatever it was, mid to 4 up on the bridge. And somebody would come up and open the thermos, and there would be the smell of some gourmet coffee that they had just brewed. And I said, "Oh, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Folgers land anymore." That's kind of interesting. So that's where I kind of got hooked on gourmet coffees. I like a darker roast myself. Our silent service is kind of a French roast kind of equivalent. I think that one's my favorite of all the blends so far. That's just some really good. It's got a really good note to it, and it's dark but without being bitter. A lot of times the really dark coffees will get bitter at the end. Our roaster just does a heck of a job at keeping them, keeping the blend clean all the way through.
Yeah, I've been drinking your coffee pretty much nonstop. A lot of cups of green eyes in the last few days, and I really enjoy it. I can sign off on the quality and on the stories on the bags, and I love the packaging, and I love the logos, the branding. We've got the sailor on the periscope here, and all of these are. Let's see if I can get on the camera here. All of these are absolutely delicious and high quality. And where do you guys source the beans from? Do you know where the beans come from? Different places?
Okay, almost all of our beans are sourced from Colombia.
Okay.
Beans come from Colombia. Our roaster is in Southern California, and they're distributed from there.
Okay.
On 2 of the blends, I believe it's brown shoe blend, we use just a little bit of Ethiopian beans from Africa. And even for a medium roast, I really love what the roaster does to bring out different flavors in brown shoe blend. I enjoy that too, even if it's not the darkest coffee on the menu. And then the one we just released a couple of months ago, Liberty Call, has a Kona blend. So it's mostly Colombian beans with a Kona bean mix. And it's a lighter roast.
My wife likes brown shoe, and I really like green eyes, and those are the 2 that we've been drinking so far. And I've got these 2 other ones that I'm saving because I don't want to open them all and expose them to air too early.
Haze Gray is our highest caffeine content.
Oh, okay.
And then the secret, we also have Battleship Blend, but Battleship Blend is actually haze gray in a different package.
Okay. Nice.
But we did that we made that conscious decision. We are the coffee supplier for Missouri Memorial, New Jersey Memorial. So we did specific packaging just for, and we're working to bring in some of the other battleships on display around the United States. But yeah, that's why we do that. We do packaging just, and you still get it from the website. But if you go aboard New Jersey or Missouri and take the tour, you go to their gift store, you buy a shirt, you see coffee. Yeah, it's Battleship Blend.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. Congratulations to you guys for getting that kind of, it's a prestigious recognition to be served there.
Well, and we partner with them. We make a donation of $1 for every bag sold. We donate $1 to their preservation funds for those ships.
Oh, that's great. So if you buy Old Salt coffee, you are contributing to the preservation of U.S. Navy warships.
Yes, on our I won't bore you going through the entire list, but on our website it lists the nonprofits, and they're mostly veteran related that we partner with, and we have different discount codes, or if you use their certain discount codes when you purchase, we make a donation to those nonprofits.
Great. Yeah, I've got the website pulled up so people watching can see the Old Salt Coffee website, and you can pick out your starter kit and your blends and all that. And you have gear and you have apparel, and everything looks awesome. And you have a coffee club. So how does the coffee club work?
Coffee club. It's you earn points for every purchase. Later, you can get free coffee out of it. There's the coffee club, and there's also the subscription where I am on the Plankowner. I was one of the since I'm an owner, I was one of the first people that signed up for the subscription, and I like that. I get I get a whole force, which is that's brown shoe blend, haze gray, silent service, and green eyes. I get 4 bags of coffee a month, and it ships on a specific day. Well, about 4 days prior to that, I get an email saying, hey, do you want to change your mix? So I can get 4 bags of silent service if I want. And I update it real quick, and then boom. I never run out of coffee. I always try to keep plenty of coffee on hand to, Johnny Appleseed, go around and hand out coffee to people, try to generate some interest in it.
Yeah, well, if anybody ever hands me some coffee, my interest is immediately generated. I can confirm that works. So, yeah, I love that, and I love the coffee, and I'm glad that I am on board now with this. And all the social medias are Old Salt Coffee.
Yes.
So if you guys want to go participate in the conversation, you can head over to Old Salt Coffee. Now,
yeah, and you don't even have to buy coffee to join in on the conversation. I mean, like us on Facebook and Instagram. We're building up our presence on Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram is really where we're at right now. And if you're interested at all in Navy history, I'd like to think we got some pretty good posts on there.
Yeah, so that's I do love that. So there is the Navy has a lot of incredible tradition and history, and actually, I'm glad you just said that because it reminded me of something you mentioned a second ago. Were you going to say you're a plank owner of the coffee club?
I'm a plank owner of Old Salt Coffee.
Yeah. So, and people might not know, but plank owner. Well, maybe you've been a commander of a ship. Maybe you should best describe what a plank owner is.
But plank owner is part of the commissioning crew. When a ship is first built and put into service, the crew that's aboard, when it officially becomes a U.S. Navy ship, they are all plank owners. Now, I am not a plank owner of any Navy ship. All of mine were built when I got there. But since we've got that Navy theme going on, I am a plank owner of Old Salt Coffee, and for the first couple of months that we went live, if you got the subscription, you got called a plank owner on subscription. Now it's just a subscription. So
I am incredibly honored to be a plank owner of Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 23 out of San Diego, California. Being part of a pre-commissioning crew, even though it was a squadron, not a ship, is really a great experience, and it connected me for life to that command. And it's really cool. And so if you ever hear somebody in the Navy talk about being a plank owner, or if you ever get the opportunity to be a plank owner of something, it's a very special opportunity. And congratulations to anybody out there who is a plank owner. I hope you appreciate that status.
It really is. There's a lot of emotional investment in that because 3 of my ships, I was a scab crew. I know that's the derogatory term. I was the second ship I was on. It had been in commission about 2 years when I got there, so there were still quite a few plank owners. When I was a department head, I was the second weapons officer. It was almost all plank owners when I got there. And when I was executive officer, I was the second executive officer of that ship. So there are a lot of pre-commissioning a ship is hard. It's hard. Sailors don't sign up to sit in a building and wait for their delay. It's tough. So I really hats off to to those that get through that, get a ship built, get it to sea, and get it to be an operational unit. But kind of those shared challenges that first crew has, they are tight, and it's fun to go back and forth. I was kind of told them, yeah, you built the ship, but it takes us to kind of fix it. So you go back and forth with it. It's just the ribbing of one another, good-natured rivalry. But plank owners are very proud of what they do, and they should be. That is not easy, standing up a command from scratch.
It's not easy, and it's not often you come across that opportunity. It could be once in a career. It could be, it could never happen in 30 years. So even if you've been just as kind of a side tangent here, but just if you're a sailor out there, if you're looking to become a sailor, I know a lot of future service members listen to this program. If you're looking at becoming a sailor and you do become a plank owner, even if it's not the sexy action-packed job you thought you were signing up for, and does include a lot of busy work or waiting around, or not you're part of a ship, but there's no ship even. It's still a special opportunity to get to do that. It could be once in a career, and it's something you'll probably look back on fondly in 15, 20, 30 years. And then if you do get to be on a ship, hopefully everyone out there in the Navy is on a ship. I hope that you get to enjoy the coffee mess as well. Have you had anybody sending pics or tagging pics of Old Salt coffee on a ship, like maybe some sailors underway?
We've had some people tag us in different places. I can't think. They've sent us pictures. I can't think of a tag right off the bat of like an underway ship, but we've had a number of different ships. One of the things we did over Christmas was we had a BOGO, buy one, give one. And if
I like that.
If a customer bought the 4-bag, that's called the whole force, get the 4-bag like I'm subscribed to, you got to donate a bag of coffee.
Oh, I love that.
And if the customer actually knows, like, well, my nephew is stationed aboard USS Russell, I want to donate it to him. They send us a name and an address, and boom, we go straight to that. But there was also the option where they could just say, yeah, I want to donate mine to an aviation command, or I want to donate mine to a surface ship, or to a submarine, or to a special ops, community, something like that. And we even had it. Somebody said, hey, because we still include the Marines. I mean, they're Department of the Navy. They don't like to admit that, but they are. They're Department of the Navy. We had people donating to to a couple of different Marine places. So the idea was to give coffee to active duty people. And we wound up with, I have to go back and check my notes, we wound up with over 100 donations. And I was the guy who got to, when they just said, yeah, aviation command, the first thing I would do would pull up on the Facebook page, about weekly, the Naval Institute kind of does a quick laydown of who's deployed and where. So, like maybe, I think Truman is deployed right now, and she's got a cruiser and 3 or 4 destroyers with her. If they said, hey, to a Navy ship, boom, I'm looking at somebody who's deployed either to the Med or to the Middle East or to the Far East. Aviation the same way. Look at the squadrons aboard the carrier or aboard the big deck amphibs. Submarines, that's a little bit more difficult because submariners are just notoriously quiet, but we donated to the submariners, and that's where we got some good feedback. We had some ships who got some pictures of it aboard, either in their chief's mess or in their wardroom, and that they would send the pictures back to us. It was great.
I
We tried to include a note saying, "Hey, here's free coffee. A customer has donated this. Please enjoy it."
I love, oh man, I love that. First of all, I love a buy one, give one. I love that so much. I like that a lot more than a buy one, get one. I love that. And if there's another buy one, give one, I look forward to participating this upcoming holiday season. And then it's also, it's kind of a way you found to continue to serve back to the community, because when you get to send those out, I'll tell you, when I was in Afghanistan, Iraq, we had very limited resources. If we opened up a package and it had coffee, or, even if it was K-cups or whatever, if we had lucky enough to have some kind of coffee machine, wow, you don't know the positive morale impact that could have. Just anything good that can just make your whole deployment, honestly. I still, just the other day, talking to a buddy of mine, a Green Beret who I was deployed with in Afghanistan, we were going over old packages we got on that deployment and the letters that were inside from, kids who maybe were from a church or a school or something like that. Those care packages, they make a huge difference when you're deployed.
Yeah, and the note that we would include in it, and we can do it better, and we will do it better this Christmas. We need to have a feedback loop to the, we didn't really think through well enough. Yeah, we're not perfect yet. We should have had a better mechanism for a feedback loop to the person who purchased the coffee, and we'll get better at it. But the note that I would send to the ships, and typically if they just said, to a command, whatever command it was, I would send it with a note to either the command master chief, the XO, or the captain. And I would say, hey, here's who we are. Here's our, here's what BOGO is. This person wanted to donate to an aviation command, and we picked, VFA 146 or whoever it was. This is the executive officer. You're the perfect person to figure out. You can keep this for yourself. You can give it to the wardroom. Maybe your sailor of the week, sailor of the month, whatever. Completely up to you. I said the only thing we ask is that since hey we want people to tell their sea stories over a cup of old salt coffee. Whoever gets the coffee, make sure they tell some sea stories while they drink it. That's really the only note we put on there.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
Yeah, so you got some sailor out there, like, again, that kid that's been cleaning that same passageway for the last. I'm hoping that some sailor that's been cleaning that passageway for the last 90 days underway say, hey, you're doing a great job. Have some coffee.
Mission first, sailor always. It all comes back. It all comes back around to the people, right? It always does.
It always comes back to the people.
It's incredible that we can have those experiences and bond over something like that. And like you were talking about, 40 years later, those guys from the 80s, 20 years later, however many years later, people are inviting you back to their commissioning ceremony when they take over, change of command ceremony. Forging those bonds is definitely the greatest part of our privilege opportunity that we have to serve in the military, in the strongest Navy in the world. It's the people.
And I'm sure you would see this too. If you went back, if you were on the street tomorrow and met a guy from, we talked there the other day, you said you were in V1 division on Reagan.
V4.
Before, when you were a screaming seaman. If you met one of your guys that you hadn't seen since you'd been on Reagan, dollars to donuts, the two of you would sit there and talk like it was no break. There was no break in time. It's amazing how you reconnect with the people after all those years. You may not have seen them for 15 years. You pick up mid-sentence right where you left off. That bond from the shared experiences we do when we're active duty together. There's nothing like it.
And you know what? It happens for people listening. That happens more than you might think. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's great. And you know what I typically do? Want to grab a cup of coffee? It's
and even if they're not coffee drinkers, it at least about 90% of your stand the mid watches. If you're not a coffee drinker, you are before too long. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just quick side note, I've got a good buddy of mine out here in Japan. He served in the Royal Army and in the UK, and we go out for coffee and he gets a tea, and I'm like, rubbish. What are you doing? I'm trying to get him on some coffee, but he won't budge off of tea. But it's the same thing. It's just that thing that we come together and share a cup of and build a bond over.
tea's a thing, especially for the royal subjects. That also, that could be a place where we expand later.
Yeah.
Get into, making other things. Tea. A lot of people drink tea, so we're still growing as a company. Who knows? Maybe we'll be selling tea one day to go with the coffee.
Foreshadowing. I love some good foreshadowing here on the Scuttlebutt Show. One of the things I ask people when I get veteran business owners, entrepreneurs on the show is, 5 years, 10 years, what are the long-term goals?
Well, obviously, Black Rifle Coffee Company is the big veteran-owned coffee company. So there's where you've always got your, you always got your sights. I don't have a specific goal of where we'll be in 5 years. I would like to see us. I love doing the coffee things for the memorial ships. We want to bring more of those in. I would love. We're also available. I would love to see us in Navy exchanges and places like that. If eventually we don't have any brick and mortar, there is no Old Salt Coffee Company building of where you can go, have a cup of our coffee. Eventually, I would like to. Eventually, we plan to have buildings on there, and ideally, they would be somewhere near Navy bases where you kind of drum that up. But it's also important to remember that this isn't. We still need to bring in, other people. It isn't just for sailors; it's for everybody. It's just kind of sailor themed. So I would love to see more brand recognition. If we can expand to where we can go to brick and mortar businesses and make those profitable, I could see us there in 4 to 5 years.
I love that. When you are, I'll be there. I'll come for the ribbon cutting ceremony, for the commissioning ceremony. I would love nothing more than to have a cup of green eyes at your brick and mortar store on opening day. So definitely keep the Scuttlebutt Show in the loop. And for everyone out there listening, I vouch for this coffee. If you're a coffee drinker or if you're coffee curious, head over to Old Salt Coffee and grab yourself a bag or join the club or get the starter kit and get the mug and, become part of the community. And remember that your purchases go to supporting Navy warship preservation and all those great, the big joke is always, oh, you're in the Navy now. That's cool. One of the ships I was on is a museum now, but but it's true. And those museums rely on support from, generous people like you and volunteers and vets who go work on there and give tours and put in the work to scrape the barnacles and all that stuff. So thank you for taking on that mission. I think that's a great place to set your sights. I really do.
Yeah, there's a number of good nonprofits that we've been able to partner with, and that's part of the business. You if you're not giving back, you're not doing it right. So far we've had good success with them. We've been able to donate a good amount of money to what we think are very worthy causes, and people like the coffee so far. So
it's great. That's great. You're tracking everything in the right direction. And I look forward to next season's buy one, give one, which I am now obsessed with. And I can't wait. I'm going to have to figure out who I can send one to. Well, we've been going for about an hour now, Brian Shipman, which is, I want everyone to remember how cool of a name you have. It's epic. What do you want people to know about anything Old Salt Coffee, the Navy, your service, you? What do you want us to know?
First and foremost, the advertising, may or may not be slick. The stories may or may not be good, but the coffee is really good. First and foremost, if we don't put a good product out there, all the advertising in the world isn't going to work, because there's a lot of people selling coffee. Um, Ours is as good or better than anything you're going to find out there. Give us a try. I think you'll like it. We have good coffee. Um, Take pride in your service. Doesn't matter if you only did 2 years or if you did 20. You volunteered to go serve your nation, and you should wear that proudly. And look out for your shipmate. Doesn't matter if you're still in or not. Look out for your shipmate. Think about someone that, in shipmate meaning anyone who either you served with or maybe in your civilian life. You have obviously you have contacts and friends. You see someone who might be acting a little different, struggling a little bit. Go do some of that Navy leadership thing. Go ask them how they're doing. Go make sure somebody's not going to a bad place. But tell your sea stories. Share your sea stories with your friends, and do it over a cup of Old Salt coffee.
I love it. I love it. Yes, do that. And when you do, hit me up, tag me on social media with your Old Salt coffee and your Old Salt coffee story. Tag Old Salt Coffee, and Brian and some of the other guys from the company will, I'm sure, get a chance to see that. And I know that they'll appreciate it and know that that their work is making people happy, that their mission is being accomplished. Yeah. Brian, thank you very much. Old Salt Coffee, guys and gals, go out and get yours today. The link is in the description. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been an absolute joy to get to know you and chat with you.
Hey, thank you again for making and taking time for us. We really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. And thank you for making Stand the Watch a thing. Guys, go stream Stand the Watch from Brandon Davis. Absolutely epic. Now the Navy's country anthem. And I guess we'll wrap it up there so everyone can go out now and head to the website and order their coffee. Any closing words, Brian?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to this great episode. Thank you for getting to know Brian and his incredible career in the Navy, and now is continuing to serve with Old Salt Coffee and making people happy and caffeinated. I look forward to talking to you all very soon. For now, that's the Scuttlebutt.